Everyone. Looks like it's 3 o'clock and we'd like to get this thing rolling on time today. You are in the NASCOE legislative breakout session. We've put in a lot of work into this, hoping it all goes well. It's been an adventure, but hopefully we're going to do a good job, and you'll learn a lot through this process, and I know we have. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself. My name's Neil Burnett. I'm from North Carolina. I was the Southeast Area Legislative Chair for 2 years, and I am finishing up my second year as NASCOE National Legislative Co-Chair. And now I will let my illustrious producer and co-chair introduce himself. As soon as he gets himself off mute.
Great. My name's Clint Bain. Like Neil said, this is my first year serving as legislative co-chair. I'm from Tennessee. I've been with FSA for 12 years. Prior to being legislative chair, I served as the Southeast Area Legislative Chair for 1 year. So I've enjoyed working with Neil over the past year and look forward to working with him in the future. Now we're going to start off and go ahead and introduce our area legislative chairs. If they would like to one by one introduce themselves, we'll start off with Ned Hyman in the Northeast area.
Hello, everyone. My name's Annette Hyman. I am from Western New York, Erie County. I'm a CED. I have been involved with NASCOE for the last 10 years in some form. And I am wrapping up my 4th year as a Northeast Area Legislative Consultant.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jessie Colgrove. I am the Northwest Area Legislative Chair. I have been in this role for about a year. This is my first year, but before that, I was the Northwest Area Exec and the alternate exec before that. I have been the CED in Gage County, Nebraska for 11 years, with the agency for 13 and a NASCOE member the entire time.
Hi, I'm Nancy Insminger. I'm from Oklahoma. This is my first year on the Legislative Committee. Previously, I was the Southwest Area Membership Chair, and I enjoyed that very much. I have been with FSA this month for 35 years.
Good afternoon. I'm David McBride. I'm from North Carolina. This is my first year serving on the legislative team, and my first year being honored to serve the Southeast area as the legislative chair. And I've been a CED for 19 years and with the agency for 26 years.
Sarah Bateson is not able to join us this afternoon, so but she is our new legislative chair from the Midwest area. We will go ahead and let everyone know this meeting is like it was this morning. It's a live meeting, so any questions that you have, please type those into the question box. We have our area chairs are going to work with those, and they will publish those. Clint and I will answer the ones we can. There are some that we may not be able to answer. We want to make sure that we stay in compliance with the Hatch Act today. We prefer our jobs and don't want to lose them over this. But we highly encourage you to type any questions that you have, because those that we can answer, we will have prepared, and they will be addressed tonight. when Hunter is presenting. So we'll make sure we get those questions asked then. So just feel free to ask whichever questions that you have. And don't forget that meeting is tonight. It's at 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central, and 5:30 West Coast time. So please join us for that. Be sure to join us from your personal laptops at that time. Since there is much more sensitive information, you should not be on a government computer for that particular meeting. So the agenda items, you'll see those listed here. Clint is going to take a look at appropriations. It's something that's always at the top of our list. We spend several months a year where the appropriations process is, going through that. Then he'll take a look at a couple of pieces of legislation that have been passed and that's law. And then I'll take over on the right-hand side with proposals and legislation that we're looking at, and then we'll wrap it up with our outreach and advocacy project that we've been working on, and that we will roll this out, end up rolling this out this fall. This virtual convention has caused us to embrace this new technology, and Clint and I have been talking, and I think that actually may be a huge benefit in helping roll out this this outreach initiative. But at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Clint.
Thank you, Neil. As he said, I'm going to talk about agriculture appropriations, which is always a hot topic and a big topic for us at NASCOE, not only for the legislative team, but for the whole association. While this year we all realize this has been an extraordinarily different year, no doubt. It's unprecedented, as has been said many times. Our year with the legislative team started off last year very similar to most years. We had 2 continuing resolutions that were passed prior to us getting a budget. That seems par for the course. As of late, over the past several years, we've always experienced continuing resolutions. Well, we had 2 last year until finally Congress passed H.R. 1865 on December 20th of 2019. This was the Further Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2020, and it gave us a full budget for the year of $1.414 billion. Of that $1.4 billion, there was $35 million, which was included for the hiring of farm loan officers and county office staff to address staffing shortages all across the country. So we were very pleased to see that $35 million, and that $35 million can be utilized by FSA all the way up till September of 2021. So that was a big plus, a big win. We were very proud of there. Also, Congress again included language prohibiting the closure of FSA county offices. We've seen that language included over the past few appropriation bills. Again, fiscal year 2020 appropriation, it was $39 million above the 2019 level. That's definitely a win. We were very pleased with that. But more so, it was $107 million above the president's proposal. And again, you won't hear Neil and I talk too much or send out too many news flashes about the president's proposal, because as many say, it is just a proposal, because we still have to have the House and we still have to have the Senate act and then the president's signature before we actually get a bill or a true appropriation. But that was the proposal, and we were significantly higher with the end result of the fiscal year 2020 appropriation. There was also a 3.1% pay increase that most of you, all of you, have experienced already, so we were pleased to see that. Again, Congress continues to express their concern with the administration regarding the effectiveness of the hiring process. I think the hiring process is something that is a topic of a lot of conversation. I know it was brought up today during the session we had earlier with the administration, and I foresee it continuing to be a topic going forward. Congress also continues to ask USDA and FSA to work with them to develop a plan to and complete workload information where they can address any needed office closures in the future. So there is a concern there as well. Now moving on from fiscal year 2020, we're already approaching the end of the fiscal year 2020, and we need to start or already started thinking about fiscal year 21 and passing appropriations there. Again, we're getting really close to that October 1st, so we probably will end up, no doubt, seeing another continuing resolution. However, the House has passed agriculture appropriations already, and what they passed was a little bit higher than last year. It was 32 million higher to be exact. So the appropriation was $1.446 billion. And again, like I said, that was a $32 million increase over last year. So again, very pleased with what the House has passed so far. Again, there was the inclusion of 20 million, maybe not the 35 million that we saw in the last fiscal year appropriation, but there was 20 million that was utilized, that will be utilized for hiring new employees at FSA, and that money will be used or can be used until September 30th of 2022. The committee is still concerned about, staffing shortages at FSA. So they wrote into this piece of legislation that no later than 90 days from the enactment of this act, the Secretary shall submit a report to Congress with an administrative breakdown of allotment levels by state, the current full-time equivalents, and the current on-board permanent employees by state and funded ceiling levels by state. So this again tells us, that Congress is still concerned about the hiring process and about the number of employees that FSA has at the county level. Also, they provided $1 million to address any hiring challenges that USDA is currently facing. So that reiterates their involvement and their interest in hiring at FSA and USDA. This bar chart, it just represents and to me just puts together a picture of where we were in fiscal year 2019 with the enacted appropriation, what the president's proposal was for fiscal year 2020, what was actually enacted in fiscal year 2020, what the president proposed in fiscal year 2021, and then where we ended up with where we're currently at with what the House has passed, with a little bit more, as we said, 32 million more than what was actually enacted in fiscal year 2020. So again, if you look at this chart, I think we have seen some definite wins and some definite increases over the last year or so, and going into fiscal year 2021, we hope we do maintain those increases. Now here's where the year kind of changed, I guess, for Neil and I, for sure. Moving from appropriations is something that every legislative committee before us has worked on. It's something you work on continuously. As one appropriations is passed, you're looking at the next fiscal year appropriation. We definitely did not expect to be monitoring coronavirus relief. But we found ourselves digging into several pieces of legislation that were proposed, and then finally the first piece of legislation that was passed that affected FSA employees, and that was HR 6201, Families First Coronavirus Relief Act. It was signed into law on March 18th. And while there's many facets to this piece of legislation, there was a very important section that of Division E there, or 5101 Division E called the Emergency Paid Leave Act, which did have an effect on FSA employees and other government employees. This act, Emergency Paid Leave Act, provided paid sick leave in the amount of 80 hours to be used by employees when they have one of these listed circumstances, whether they have tested positive for COVID-19 or whether they have someone they're caring for that is tested positive for COVID-19 and has been quarantined, or one other circumstance that I believe a lot of parents are experiencing now, and I know we have a lot of employees out there, there are parents of young children, is when schools are closed, they closed early, or where they're going on different schedules, or they've got virtual learning. I know we've got schools here in Tennessee where they're going, part of the students are going Monday, Tuesday, nobody goes on Wednesday, and then the other group goes on Thursday and Friday. So there's 3 days that week where somebody's got to take care of those children and they've got to do virtual learning. So this act provides sick leave for those employees to use in the amount of 80 hours at 2/3 their salary. It's not a full salary benefit, but it is at 2/3 of the salary. So if you didn't know about this and this is something that you think may work in a situation you have, please pursue this and inquire about it. Again, it is 80 hours. It will not exceed 80 hours. And this bill did have a sunset on it. So any of the leave that you have in this category will not carry forward into calendar year 2021. It will end with December 31st, 2020. The CARES Act, this is something that a lot of you have heard about. We see CARES a lot when we're doing the CFAP program, no doubt. So a lot of you probably have heard about the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. This was a massive stimulus bill that was passed to support both businesses and individuals, but it had a major impact on FSA employees and NASCOE membership, partly by $3 million that was appropriated within this bill for temporary staff, and also paying overtime expenses. Some of you have probably experienced a lot of overtime work over the past few months. Some of you have probably seen temporary employees hired in your offices. Some of that money came from this $3 million. Also, there was a $14 billion boost to the Commodity Credit Corporation Fund. This was very important in administering the Coronavirus Food Assistance Program, as well as the $9.5 billion that went into CFAP for livestock operations, dairy farmers, non-specialty crop producers, specialty crop producers, farmers markets, schools, restaurants. Now, we see more eligible crops being added to CFAP. Now we've seen the deadline for sign up extended to September 11th. And then there's even talk, about the possibility of a CFAP 2 coming forward. So CFAP and CARES are two acronyms that we know fairly well now. Also within the CARES Act, the bill allowed the Secretary of Agriculture to extend the term of the marketing assistance loan from 9 months to 12 months. This is an authority that will expire the end of September. It will not go forward. So a lot of producers that had commodities in a loan very, very much needed the extra 12 months to market their crop. Not that those prices have gotten much better, but it has given them a little bit more time. So they've had a few more options. At this point, I'm going to turn this over to Neil. If I can remember how I need to do that, I'm going to turn it over to Neil, And Neil's going to talk to you about some more recently passed legislation that Congress has passed or introduced. So Neil, I'll let you go ahead and take that over from here. I'm glad to see you already got yourself over.
Thank you, Clint. So yes, this is proposed legislation. That's always very important to keep in mind. You know, everybody doesn't typically always agree in Washington, D.C. So, and you know, it's no secret we have you know, split control between Congress. So but the House did they did vote and pass on the 15th the HR 6800, or better known as the HEROES Act. In that, you know, it provided $16.5 billion for direct payments to agricultural producers. And this is just kind of a highlight. There's a lot more specifics, the data, a lot more things that affected agriculture, but they don't necessarily involve FSA. Some do, but it provides $100 million to address COVID-19 specialty crop supply chain issues. Establishes various measures to address challenges in the dairy industry, which the dairy industry has been suffering for a long time, and Congress is quite cognizant of that and trying to do all they can to help the dairy industry out. It amends the Charter Act to add authority for the Secretary to address specific supply chain issues. But there is a stipulation with that. It also requires congressional notification for dispersing those CCC funds. So in response to that, the Senate introduced their own version. It was called the HEALS Act. But you know, the Senate has not even actually voted on this. This is just this is what they proposed, and it just signals the direction that they're going and what they're looking at. But so they introduced this on July 27th. So this bill includes the following: additional funding for agriculture. It provides $20 billion to the USDA Office of Secretary for additional support for agricultural producers, growers, processors impacted by COVID-19. But something that we were really was an eye-popping number to us, and it really shows how much Congress realizes the position that we're in. They approved $76.4 million for temporary staff and overtime costs resulting from increased volume of applications due to COVID-19. So, you know, Congress does recognize the struggles that we've been in this year and how much we need extra assistance. And I think it was mentioned on the program this morning that this is probably going to continue. As you can see, there's lots more money being proposed for agriculture. So we will probably continue to see more programs, you know, probably talking about a new CFAP, and we don't know. You know, this coronavirus thing's not over with yet, and we don't know when we'll see, you know, Congress come together and, you know, get the House and Senate together and develop a new bill. But you know, that's something that Clint and I are constantly monitoring, and you know, things change from week to week, from crisis to crisis. So you know, right now I don't think the Senate's Congress is really on recess. They'll come back after Labor Day, so we'll see what happens then. So now we're going to move on to the Senate Bill 3104, which is about Paid Parental Leave Technical Correction Act. Now, we got some really great news this morning. when Peggy was addressing the group, she did mention that the department is going to extend this benefit to CO employees. You know, we struggled with that for quite a while. NASCOE sent a request to the department, as Brandon mentioned, and we weren't sure whether we'd get that benefit or not. And this is part of the National Defense Authorization Act of 2020. It was something that we really didn't know was coming. But once it was out there, you know, we wanted our CO employees to have access to it, just like our farm loan people did. So this 3104 was introduced by Senator Schumer, and it was intended to make corrections. You know, not only were CO employees left out, but some TSA employees and actually quite a number of different federal employees were not Title V. You know, this is a key benefit because it provides up to 12 weeks of parental leave per 12-month period. It's under the Family Medical Leave Act, and it's effective for births, adoptions, and foster placements after September 30th of this year. So this is not active yet, but it's only just over a month away. So we are hoping, NASCOE is still looking at the possibility of including Title VII county office employees in legislation that would kind of set a precedence for this in the future. We don't think there's anything to be hurt by that, and it kind of makes it permanent if that happens. So NASCOE is definitely in support of making that happen if we can. And that brings us to HR 2478. We have been referring to this as the Kilmer bill for months now. This bill is extremely important to a lot of our members because so many of us started with temporary time. This bill is currently is proposed and supported by, it has currently 58 co-sponsors. This would allow temporary service performed after January 1st of 1989 to be credible for FERS employees, so long as a deposit's made. There's been several similar bills introduced over the years. This one is definitely more favorable for our employees because of the payback involved. So, you know, NASCOE definitely is supporting this bill, but it just has not received any traction so far. But we're hopeful that at some point it will get included and attached to some legislation in the future. So we will continue to monitor that. We talk about it every week. So if you'll tune in tonight with Hunter's presentation, hopefully he may have some updated news on this. But I know that's, like I said, it's something that we would really like to see for our membership and the rest of our employees. So tune in tonight. We'll see. You'll get the latest information just like Clint and I. So now let's move on to the NASCOE Outreach and Advocacy Initiative. So this is something that we've been working on for a while. It's not anything necessarily new to NASCOE because the Southwest area has successfully developed this and been doing it for years. It's a new approach though that most of our state office or state associations have not been doing. So what we'd like to do is just kind of develop that relationship with other organizations, congressional members, congressional staff members are extremely important. So just in general, stakeholders, it's not about lobbying. This is about just building relationships. We support the idea of you having a relationship with your local congressional ag aide or congressman, and he says, they want to know how a program is going. They've passed it in legislation, and they want to know how the sign-up's going. And we'd love for them to feel comfortable enough to give you a call and say, how's this? What's happening in your office with this program? That's really what we're looking for. And we also want to work with stakeholders in general. Like general farm groups, say like Farm Bureau or livestock groups, vegetable organizations. This is going to look a little different in every state. So what's important in Vermont may not be the same as in Florida. So this will be kind of tailored to each state. But so we're not planning on just kind of throwing each state association out there and just say, here you go, this is what you want you to do. Go out there and do it. We're going to we have detailed slide presentations to review. We're going to have conference calls. Actually, those conference calls will really probably be Teams meetings now, which we think is going to be a great thing. We would discuss the questions. We'd have a prepared script for the members that do this. So each group would be well prepared before embarking on their first visit. We want to make sure they're quite comfortable with the process. And there will be guidance from one year to the next. So whatever the process state of North Carolina's on may be different from Kansas. And so this is a project where you'll have someone walking with you totally along the way, and it will get the more you do it, the more comfortable that you will get with this process. But it has proved to be extremely successful in the Southwest area, so we want to emulate that nationwide. So we do know that it's probably a little too, I can't think of the word now, but it's more of a project that we want to take on with every state across the nation right now. So what we've done is we've selected a couple states in each area to kind of roll this out. And so this year we've rolled it out in like Tennessee and North Carolina. Well, next year we want to roll it out. They will take over as their second year, and then maybe Virginia and Georgia would roll out their first year. And that's sort of it'll be a process. This is something that we're investing in the future, and it's a long-term project. So each state would have like 3 to 5 very capable vetted members that are trained to carry out these contacts. And these selected groups would meet prior to stakeholder meetings to practice going over those materials. And as I mentioned, here you can see how some of the examples of organizations that you might meet with. And as I mentioned, it would be in each state would have various, maybe 5 or 6 groups that you would target. So it might be the Maple Growers Association in Vermont, but it would definitely not be one in North Carolina. So so those would be selected along with your area exec to kind of decide on which groups those would be. And then you would go from there. The Farm Bureau is probably one of those that's pretty active in most states, but those vary from area to area. So these meetings would be scheduled to take place over a relatively short time frame. In a lot of places, they would be in like in the nation's capital. Hopefully that's where the state associations are. So we would, you would like to try to schedule 2 or 3 in a day's time. Your group come in, practice going over this. They would have these meetings set up, and then you would move from one group to the next. So you're talking about 2 or 3 days worth. The contact information should be readily available on the internet for states, to look up, and you'll develop a database. State associations will be expected to fund the cost of these outreach efforts. So they should consider budgeting for this annually. And we believe that targeting these visits for the winter or early spring would probably be best. It's, a lot of these associations, they're run by growers, and they, the winter and early spring are when they're least busy. That's when they probably got the most time to take to visit with you. So that's when these would typically be scheduled, when they're less busy. So honestly, from what we've seen, if you had the opportunity to do this, it would be a very meaningful and rewarding experience for those individuals selected. So I don't think it's something to be concerned about. It's actually something to be to cherish, that opportunity to have to go out and do that and develop these relationships. I think you'd find it extremely exciting and something that once you have done it, you would love to continue to do it. So that's kind of wraps up our presentation in a nutshell. We're open to questions. I think we'll turn it back over to Clint and let him start. We'll see if we have any questions, and we'll go from there.
Thanks, Neil. Wanted to make sure I got on mute there. You will turn yours on mute for a second. There you go. Yeah, thank you, Neil, for everything you did on your presentation, and we can't reiterate the county office or the county or the outreach and advocacy initiative anymore. We look forward to working with that, and Microsoft Teams may have given us a new avenue to work with everybody across the country in doing so. So we look forward to doing that. Before we get to some questions, and I know we've got a few here that we're going to try to answer, but before we get to those questions, we just wanted to reiterate or let you know about a legislative breakout session that we're going to have tonight at 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central, 5:30 Pacific. This is going to be after hours. As Neil alluded to earlier, we can't say everything today that we would like to tell you about the Legislative Committee due to the Hatch Act. So tonight you're going to hear from Hunter Moorhead. He's NASCOE's legislative consultant, so he will be talking to us this evening. Any questions that we're not able to answer for you today, or any questions that you have for him, we will get those answered this evening during that breakout session after hours. Also, we're going to talk about some other promotions that we've got going on through the NASCOE legislative team. So we highly encourage you to come back to us on Microsoft Teams this evening. I will tell you this, this evening, you will have to log in on your personal device or your personal equipment. Do not use government issued equipment for this Teams meeting tonight. This will strictly be on your personal time and on your personal equipment. So again, I can't reiterate that enough. Please use your personal device on that, no government devices whatsoever. So that said, we look forward to hearing from everybody or seeing everybody tonight and answering any questions that you have. That said, I see one question specifically that I think I might be able to answer, and and I'll read it out, and then I'll try to answer it to the best of my ability. It asks, could you give a scenario of the act that you talked about in your presentation? You mentioned the 80 hours and that it would only be paid at 75%. So could that be combined with other sick leave to make that time off add up to an employee's full pay? I'm going to ask this question or answer this question to the best of my ability. There is 80 hours of paid leave through the Emergency Paid Leave Act, and that came through the Family's First Coronavirus Relief Act that we talked about. The 80 hours is for any of those uses that were listed there. It's not 80 hours per circumstance. The 80 hours would be for all those together, okay? And it would be when you use that emergency paid leave to take care of a child where schools have been closed, or take care of a child where they're going to alternate schedules, then that leave, when used, you would only get paid for that day or that hour at 2/3 of your pay rate. So that's 2/3, not the 75%. So if you had a day a week that you were using this paid leave, one of those days that week that you used it, you would only get paid at 2/3 your salary. So if you took 2 weeks off, you know, that would be your 80 hours if you took complete, and during that period, it would be 2/3 of your salary. I hope that answers the question. Neil, do you have anything you would like to add to that?
No, I think you're right on target with that.
And somebody made a comment just before. Do we have the times right up there for 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central? I'm not familiar with the other time. Would it be, is that 5:30 correct, Neil?
Well, I thought it was, but it may not be. It's a long ways from North Carolina to California, but I thought it was 3 hours difference. Someone else on the committee may be able to answer that if we're wrong.
Neil, I'll let you take the next question if you like.
Sure. Will there be any financial assistance to states for the outreach initiative? That's a good question. At this point, we have not planned for any. The cost would be fairly minimal, but I am sure that if a state that is selected for this is in a financial situation where they could present a case for that, I'm sure that the executive committee would be glad to take that up. It would not be up to Clint and I. It would be up to the executive board. And so I'm not going to say that that's could not happen. So I would just suggest if your state's interested in that, but you have if it presents a financial challenge, then I would highly suggest that you make your case, and we'll take it to the executive board and let them make a determination on that. Do we have any other questions? We never did get a affirmative on the West Coast time.
Neil?
Yes.
Hey, it's Jesse. You missed Mountain Time. So Mountain Time would be 5:30 and Pacific Time would be 4:30.
There's the expert answer. Thank you, Jesse.
Northwest area. Yep.
Yeah, Clint and I, you know, we're pretty close to the East Coast. I can't even believe he's Central. So we'll try to. Well, it doesn't matter. Y'all know the answer to that now. Any other questions? Oh, we do have more questions here. I just need to scroll down. I'll take this one as well. the Outreach and Advocacy Initiative. Is it on a volunteer basis? How do we get involved? That's a great question. We would love to have states that are excited and want to do this. I would have you contact your area exec and say, you know, we heard about this advocacy outreach objective initiative, and we'd love to be a part of that. Let them know so they can let us know. You know, it is a volunteer basis, and you know, the only thing is that we want to make sure that those individuals selected to represent your state and be on this team would be, vetted, make sure they're the right kind of individual. We want to, and the reason we say that is we want to make sure that we have individuals that will go in and stick to the message, and not, because you're speaking for NASCOE and you're representing NASCOE. So you want to go in and make sure that we don't have anyone that's apt to go out on a limb and maybe cross that line. So that's the reason those individuals are vetted. But yes, just let your area exec know, because this is going to be a great project. I think you'll really like it.
Neil, the next question we have is regarding tonight's after hours meeting. And the question is there a conference ID if you're calling in, or is there a call-in number? And there is not a call-in number for a live event like we are hosting. So there is only the attendee link, and you can find that on the list of links at the NASCOE convention website. But you do not have to have Teams to be able to, I mean, you don't have to, well, you have to have Teams, but you just click on the link and you can go and watch this just like we're doing today. If you do have the app downloaded on your phone, you can watch it from your phone. You can download the app on your computer. There's several ways you can do that, but unfortunately there is not a call-in number for a live event. Neil, am I missing something on that?
No, I don't think so. Tonight's event is also, like I said, live, so it's not a call-in. There is not a call-in number for that. But as you mentioned, you don't have to have Teams downloaded on your personal computer. I think to use your cell phone, you do have to download the Teams app. But yeah, but that's, you can do that in a matter of a couple of minutes, and you'll have access to it on your phone if you'd like. But yeah, it doesn't have to be on your laptop. You can go through, use it by way of the web, and you'll be on. Who let Jake on this thing? My buddy Jake from Wisconsin. States are tight. Let's see, states are tight, and you mentioned budget size travel. What'd you expect for expenses for the advocacy initiative? Jake, what we're really talking about is travel into most likely your nation's capital. You would probably looking at 1 or 2 nights lodging. You could have double occupancy in some of that. Some people may be close enough to drive in and out. It kind of all depends, but travel in, you're talking about a couple of days, M&IE, lodging, hopefully it would work out that way. And I don't know what your state would be like, but you may have a couple of different locations. And you may have to go from one end of the state to the other to really hit the organizations that you would like to hit. But so it's not a tremendous amount of cost, but that can add up. So it's definitely something that some states would have a difficulty with. So yeah, if that's your situation, then please let us know. But it will vary in each state. Some states it will be easier than others. Like in North Carolina, it's a fairly large state, but I would think most of our organization headquarters are in Raleigh, so not hugely expensive. It's a once a year thing. Honestly, guys, something to think about is this fall. We actually may not even be doing it in person with the COVID situation. So you may actually be doing a Teams meeting just like this. And honestly, it could be very effective. I know we'd rather see people in person, but we'd rather see them on here than not at all. So it could be that it could be very inexpensive this fall.
Just to reiterate, that's very true. We may have stumbled upon by default, I guess, Microsoft Teams due to the current COVID situation. But I think going forward, Teams can create some opportunities where maybe, Jake, you don't have the budget to travel somewhere to the state's capital, but you could set up a Teams meeting as long as you included Neil or myself and your area ledge chair. We could set up a meeting with those individuals through Microsoft Teams. Something we didn't mention, but maybe they mentioned this morning on the main during the main call. We do have Microsoft Teams capability through NASCOE. So Neil and I can set up these meetings however we like, as long as we're a producer or a presenter. We have full capabilities to utilize Microsoft Teams. So we'll be willing to work with you in doing that. Also, I know Neil maybe mentioned the nation's capital a couple times of traveling there, but we are looking at this as a grassroots initiative. So we're looking at, if you're in Wisconsin, you're traveling to the state capital, or maybe where some of these associations are housed. Sometimes I know in Tennessee, I live in Columbia, Tennessee, and our Tennessee Farm Bureau headquarters is here in Columbia, Tennessee. It's not in our state's capital in Nashville. Nashville is only about an hour north of here, but they are stationed in southern Middle Tennessee and in rural Columbia. So some of those farm organizations that we might be reaching out to build a relationship in different states across the country, they may be located in different places besides the state's capital.
And if I mistakenly said the nation's capital, I'm glad you corrected me on that. Yeah. Well, we're kind of winding down toward the end of our time here. If I don't see any other questions, we really do hope that you'll join us tonight. Hunter is always informative. He's always willing to answer any questions that you have, and he's got he knows what's going on up there. So please feel free to join any way that you can tonight. I think it'll be worth your time. Clint, you got anything else that you want to say before we wrap this up?
No, I just would concur with your feelings on tonight's meeting. We can't encourage you enough to attend this meeting. Hunter's a very good resource for us in the nation's capital. I think you will greatly benefit from hearing him talk. And if you have any questions that were not answered today, Neil and myself, as well as Hunter, will be available to try to answer those questions this evening. And we just look forward to having everybody at this event. Again, there is a promotion that we're going to talk about during that event. So come on out to that and we'll talk about that as well. So I appreciate all of you attending and look forward to seeing everybody out tonight.